Our next book, Stephen Chbosky's book, has been challenged, but mostly retained, in public libraries and high schools since 2003 for its inclusion of sexual behavior, homosexuality, brutality, bestiality, and masturbation. And here to read from The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky is Ari Davis.
All right. December 21st, 1991. Dear friend, wow. I can paint the picture for you if you like. We are all sitting in Sam and Patrick's house, which I had never seen before. It was a rich house, very clean, and we were all giving our final presents. The outside lights were on, and it was snowing, and it looked like magic, like we were somewhere else, like we were someplace better. It was the first time I had ever met Sam and Patrick's parents. They were so nice. Sam's mom is very pretty and tells great jokes. Sam said she used to be an actress when she was younger. Patrick's dad is very tall and had a great handshake. He is also a very good cook. A lot of parents make you feel very awkward when you meet them, but not Sam and Patrick's. They were friendly all through dinner, and when dinner was over, they left so we could have our party. They didn't even check on us or anything, not once. They just let us pretend it was our house. So we decided to have the party in the games room, which had no games but a great rug. When I revealed that I was Patrick's Secret Santa, everyone laughed because everyone knew. And Patrick did his best impersonation of being surprised, which was nice of him. Then everyone asked what my last gift was, and I told them it was a poem I read a long time ago. It was a poem that Michael made a copy of for me, and I have read it 1,000 times since because I don't know who wrote it. I don't know if it was ever in a book or a class, and I don't know how old the person was, but I know that I want to know him or her. I want to know that this person is okay. So everyone asked me to stand up and read the poem, and I wasn't shy because we were trying to act like grown-ups, and we drank brandy, and I was warm. I'm still a little warm, but I have to tell you this. So I stood up, and just before I read this poem, I asked everyone if they knew who wrote it to please tell me. When I was done reading the poem, everyone was quiet, a very sad quiet, but the amazing thing was that it wasn't a bad sad at all. It was just something that made everyone look around at each other and know that they were there. Sam and Patrick looked at me, and I looked at them, and I think they knew. Not anything specific, really. They just knew, and I think that's all you can ever ask from a friend. That's when Patrick put on his second side of the tape I made for him and poured everyone another glass of brandy. I guess we all looked a little silly drinking it, but I didn't feel silly, and I can tell you that. As the songs kept playing, Mary Elizabeth stood up, but she wasn't holding a suit coat. It turns out that she wasn't my Secret Santa at all. She was the Secret Santa to the other girl with the tattoo and belly ring, whose real name is Alice. She gave her some black nail polish, and Alice had her eye on, and Alice was very grateful. I just sat there looking around the room, looking for the suit coat, not knowing who could possibly be holding it. Sam stood up next, and she gave Bob a handcrafted Native American marijuana pipe, which seemed appropriate. More people gave more gifts, and more hugs were exchanged, and finally it came to the end. No one was left except for Patrick, and he stood up and walked in the kitchen. Does anyone want any chips? Everyone did. And he came out with 3 tubes of Pringles and a suit coat, and he walked up to me, and he said that all the great writers used to wear suits all the time. So I put on the suit, even though I didn't really feel like I really deserved to, since all I write are essays for Bill, but it was such a nice present, and everyone clapped their hands anyway. Sam and Patrick both agreed I looked handsome. Mary Elizabeth smiled, and I think it was the first time in my life I ever felt like I looked good. Do you know what I mean? That nice feeling when you look in the mirror and your hair's right for the first time in your life. I don't think we should base so much on weight, muscles, and a good hair day. But when it happens, it's nice. It really is. The rest of the evening was very special. Since a lot of people were going away with their families to places like Florida and Indiana, we all exchanged presents with the people we weren't Secret Santas for. Bob gave Patrick an eighth of marijuana, which is with a Christmas card attached. He even wrapped it. Mary Elizabeth gave Sam earrings, so did Alice, and Sam gave them earrings too. I think that is a private girl thing. I have to admit, I felt a little sad because other than Sam and Patrick, nobody got me a present. I guess I'm not that close with them, so it makes sense, but I still felt a little sad. And then it came to my turn. I gave Bob a little plastic tube of soap bubbles because it just seemed to fit his personality. I guess I was right. Too much was all he said. He spent the rest of the night blowing bubbles at the ceiling. Next was Alice. I gave her a book by Anne Rice because she was always talking about her, and she looked at me like she couldn't believe I knew she loved Anne Rice. I guess she didn't know how much she talked or how much I listened, but she thanked me all the same. Next came Mary Elizabeth. I gave her $40 inside a card. The card said something pretty simple, to be spent on printing Punk Rocky in color next time. And she looked at me funny. Then they all started to look at me funny, except for Sam and Patrick. I think they started feeling bad because they didn't get me anything. But I don't think they should have, because I don't think that's the point, really. Mary Elizabeth just smiled and said thanks, and then stopped looking at me in the eye. Last came Sam. I had been thinking about this present for a long time. I think I thought about this present from the first time I really saw her. Not met her or saw her, but the first time I really saw her, if you know what I mean. There was a card attached. Inside the card, I told Sam that the present I gave her was given to me by my Aunt Helen. It was an old 45 record that had the Beatles song Something. I used to listen to it all the time when I was little and thinking about grown-up things. I would go to my bedroom window and stare at my reflection in the glass and the trees behind it and just listen to the song for hours. I decided then that when I met someone I thought was beautiful, as beautiful as she was, I should give, as beautiful as the song was, I should give it to that person. And I didn't mean beautiful on the outside. I meant beautiful in all ways. So I was giving it to Sam. Sam looked at me soft, and she hugged me. And I closed my eyes because I wanted to know nothing but her arms. And she kissed my cheek and whispered so nobody could hear, I love you. I knew that she meant it in a friend way, but I didn't care because it was the third time since my Aunt Helen died that I heard it from anyone. The other 2 times were from my mom. After that, I couldn't believe that Sam actually got me a present because I honestly thought that the I love you was it. But she did get me a present, and for the first time, something nice like that made me smile and not cry. I guess Sam and Patrick went to the same thrift store because their gifts went together. She took me to her room and stood me in front of her dresser, which was covered in a pillowcase with pretty colors. She lifted off the pillowcase, and there I was standing in my old suit, looking at an old typewriter with a fresh ribbon. Inside the typewriter was a piece of white paper. On that piece of white paper, Sam wrote, "Write about me sometime." And I typed something back to her, standing right there in her bedroom. I just typed, "I will." And I felt good that those were the first 2 words that I ever typed on my new old typewriter that Sam gave me. We just sat there quiet for a moment, and she smiled. And I moved to the typewriter again, and I wrote something. "I love you too." And Sam looked at the paper, and she looked at me. "Charlie, have you ever kissed a girl?" I shook my head no. It was so quiet. "Not even when you were little?" I shook my head no again, and she looked very sad. She told me about the first time she was kissed. She told me that it was one of her dad's friends. She was 7. And she told nobody about it except for Mary Elizabeth and then Patrick a year ago. And she started to cry, and she said something that I won't forget, ever. "I know that you know I like Craig, and I know that I told you to not think of me that way. And I know that we can't be together like that, but I want you to forget all of those things for a minute, okay? Okay. I want to make sure that the first person you kiss loves you, okay? Okay." She was crying harder now, and I was too, because when I hear something like that, I just can't help it. "I just want to make sure of that, okay?" "Okay." And then she kissed me. It was the kind of kiss that I could never tell my friends out loud about. It was the kind of kiss that made me know that I was never so happy in my whole life.